Hello, it's me, Bevan Cloworthy. This is episode 2 of the Tinkerbot. Hi. So today I thought I'd try something a bit different. As I've shown in the sort of the pilot episode, I've got this overhead camera and a new boom that I've kind of built with a bit of softwood so that I can mount this camera up the top here. And what it'll allow me to do then is have sort of top-down view of what I'm trying to do here in front of me. As you can see, I've got a lovely pair of pads of paper here, one with like a stark white, one with a sort of off-colour white, which I'd like to try out today. See how they both look in terms of the presentation, whether they show up better on the camera. And I've got my lovely collection of pens here. And what I'd like to do is go through a new idea that I've sort of been noodling around in my head in the last sort of week or so. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed in episode 1 there was a little tiny gap amongst all those little programs and games that I put up there. And yeah, so I thought maybe, you know, I would go through that new design that I've come up with. It's for a little game that I'm tentatively calling Helping Me, Helping You. So let's get to it. Okay, so for this try I thought I'd go with the stark white. It's not the ideal sketching pad. I mean, I tend to use these ones here if I can get hold of them, because they've got this, they're so thick, they're lovely thick bits of paper. Not absorbent, so then the ink doesn't go through, but they're also twice as expensive as these. So I can't have many of these, and I have to be very careful with what I do with them. Unfortunately, that stupid doodle's probably cost me never mind. Anyway, drawing pad. Yeah, so I thought I'd give it a go. So as I said, the game itself is going to be called, the project itself is going to be tentatively called Helping Me, Helping You. I think that's what I called it. Yep. Helping Me, Helping You. So this came about from looking at a couple of reviews of a very recent board game, Teotihuacan, and I mistakenly assumed that the inside sort of bit that was in the middle where you sort of take tiles to help build temples and sections was actually sort of a mahjong style affair, essentially. And what it got me thinking was, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could design like a mahjong game? So do you remember the Microsoft one where you took the tiles off the top and they would have, sometimes they'd have like double ends and things like that, and suits and different pictures and things on them, and you have to take them in pairs, and if you got them in pairs you could match them up and make sets and things. And it was like, I think it was called Mahjong Solitaire, it was their variant of it. And I thought it was an intriguing idea of what if each of those tiles was kind of domino shaped with the two ends on them, and each end was like an action, for example. So something you could, so like if you took one tile, you'd have like an action at the top, an action at the bottom, but you know, they'd be flipped. So it's easy if I draw it down. So for example, if you had like the domino tile like this, and one action was, say, move, so you had like a little foot or something, I don't know, a terrible foot. And then the other action was, say, I don't know, fight, maybe, or explosion, pow, 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 poof, like that. Oh, I had a little bit more. There we go, bit of colour. Got the pens, why not? So the idea was, you would, during your turn, you'd select like a tile or something, or a card, depending on how this is made, and you would have to select which way it would orient in your tableau, or however you want to sort of present it in your sort of area, and you plonk it down, and the bottom one would be the action that you would get, so you get like the full thing, and then the top one would be an action that an opponent would get, or all your opponents would get. So I sort of wanted to try and go through that idea and extend it out and see kind of where we can go with it. So you've got like you'll have essentially a big stack of these tiles right in the middle of the table, so there'd be, you know, they'd start off with the classic kind of grid like that, with a whole bunch of tiles, and then there'd be a stack on top, again like that, and then another stack like this, or something like that. So you'd end up with like a pyramid kind of shape, and maybe, you know, as you go down actions, as you take tiles away, you reveal actions underneath. Maybe you want to try and avoid revealing certain actions, so maybe make these tiles so that it's really clear what they're going to be. So your opponent, you know when your opponent, you don't want them to see certain tiles or certain colours. Gives you lots of scope for lots of different actions or different sets that you could try and collect, for example. Which I thought was a very cool idea. So, extending this thought out, I'm thinking it's got to be some sort of either area control or some sort of building game. So the tile that you select would allow you to sort of control an area, so there'd be some sort of map or something like that, for example. So like going back to, if you've played 8 Minute Empire, that had a fantastic thing. We had like a bunch of maps that bolted together like that, and kind of each was divided up into different sections and land masses. You know, some were huge and were built up like this. Others had like loads of little dotted islands and some, you know, little pathways that you could follow. And depending on the style of movement that you used, you could end up with like, you know, having to fly across or seafare and that kind of thing. And it was very simplistic in terms of the actions. You know, I think it was something like you could move, you could fight, you could get extra cubes, or you could build a citadel or something like that, which then, as a citadel, then allowed you to build more units from that citadel and then move them out into the surrounding areas. So I'm thinking something like this would be, again, reasonably simple. So, you know, your actions would be restricted to, I really hope this is showing up on the overhead camera. If it's not, I'm going to cry. So keep the actions nice and simple. So something like move, fight, build, move, fight, build, reproduce. Something like that. So you end up with a, you know, a set of actions that you're continuously doing with these, and then maybe some sort of set collection mechanic in there as well. So maybe if you take, you could sacrifice being able to move to take, you know, some sort of engine building aspect. So that would be quite interesting, wouldn't it? So if we had some sort of like an engine building aspect, which would be quite interesting. So maybe some of the tiles. The second end faces you as well. So there you go. So maybe the tiles could have potentially two orientations. So instead of being just like that, so one end could be a move, and then the other end could be, depending on which way it's orientated, could dictate whether it's something for you or for your opponents. So some of the tiles would be awesome because they give you an ability and give a boost to this. So it might like boost the economy for you or something like that. Or helping your engine building, or just like your set collection. So having, say, 3 purples in a row would give you some extra bonus or extra points at the end of the game. But obviously it may be a situation where it's a substandard move for you to take, like a substandard action. So if you had like 3 tiles like that, and then you picked a second tile and another tile, and what you really wanted to do this turn was breed. But unfortunately the only one with a heart on the top during this round was available to you was excuse me, ignore that. Go on then. Thank you. You know, the only thing available to you this turn was gain a cube, and that's not what you wanted to do. Like, you know, you wanted to actually move into another area or something like that. Then next turn, maybe it turns up, but by having those 3 in your tableau in that row, in that order, you get, say, you know, that standard square things like that's worth 1 point, but if it's next to another one, each is worth 2, and if it's next to a third, each is worth 3, that kind of thing. Maybe, don't know. Depends how rare some of these would be. So you may have like a trade-off between taking a good action against building your collection, essentially, and building your sets up. So that'd be quite interesting as a game mechanic. Or these, instead of giving you victory points, could boost you up a certain scale. So if there's 3 next to each other, you boost up the scale 6 times, you know, and if there's 2 next to each other, you boost up it 2 times or something like that, you know. Or even first one in gives you 3, boost you by 1, second one in can boost you by 2, and then if you get 3 together you boost up by 3, so all together you boost up by 6. Oh, I like that one. I do like that one. That's a good idea. Right, let's write that one down quick. Okay, cool, so I've jotted that down just to give myself a bit of extra notes for later on, but I really like that concept of there being some sort of track or engine that you can build. You can boost your way up using these tiles, but maybe taking substandard moves here, so you've got that trade-off of taking good moves against taking really bad moves. And obviously some of these tiles will have a cracking top move and a really poor, cracking top move and a really poor upper move, balancing things like that. I don't know, it might be a bit crazy, but it'd be quite interesting. Okay, so the next thing would be, you know, the big worry would obviously be making sure that this doesn't become a bit too much admin during your turn. So you select a tile and suddenly you've got analysis paralysis trying to consider which end of that tile you're going to pick first, on top of which, once you take your action, everybody else will get to do that action as well. So unless there's some, like, you get to take a token or something maybe instead, so during your turn you can do a few actions all at once, maybe. Could do, that'd be interesting. Yeah. So we go down the token route, where you get to take a token over ticket. So if it says move, you get to take a movement token, just the one, even if it says like 3 move or something like that. So then that at least would slow down during, you know, during your turn. You'd have fewer things to do because you wouldn't want too much to do. So that'd be a good. I think that sounds like a cracking way to start this. And then the set collection aspect off the back of it. Whether it's going to be a control thing like this, I don't know. We shall see. I mean, I could just grab the maps from 8 Minute Empire and put them down with the bag of cubes, set up a whole bunch of these cards or tiles somewhere, you know, get some dominoes or something like that, and I can plonk them all together, do a few stickers. I think that'd be quite an interesting game. I did have a second idea for it though, so if we just flip the page over, see, yeah, no, cheaper, it's soaked right through. Oh dear, yeah, that's not good. Oh well, never mind. Maybe I won't be able to use marker pens on there. This bit here. Anyway, oh no, it's gone through to that one as well. For this, the second idea I had was instead of the, you know, you'd have the similar sort of style of the things like this, so these double-ended cards that may have fight or move or whatever. But instead of it being like a big pile of tiles in the middle of the table, during your turn you'd just be dealt 3 of these cards. So there'll be a big deck of cards. At the beginning of every turn you get dealt 3, and each person in front of them will have a tableau that is essentially 3 slots like that, and you have the choice of either placing the card in your own slot. So if I placed it into there, for example, I don't know why I drew it so far away, but I did. Silly moi. So if I placed it, this one for example, so this is a move and an attack. If I place this into my own tableau, for example, I would get, I'd get the move action as a benefit, and then this one here would go to. Sorry, I wouldn't get that benefit there, so I would only get the top section. So if I place it into my own tableau, I would only get to choose the bottom action. So that would be, you know, and I don't get that one, for example. However, if I place it into somebody else's tableau, then I would place it into there, for example. Not only would I limit their choices on what cards they want to reserve and keep away from the other players, I would get both actions, fantastic, but this player would also get the top action. So there may be some sort of elements of trying to make good decisions that mean that your opponent gets the least beneficial top action to them. So for example, it could be something like a move when they really don't want to move anywhere, or it could be a breed which would put them over, like, you know, overpopulate an area, which means they would lose victory points or something like that, but they'd have to do it. So there'd be a rule that says if able, you must do the top action. So in the early game, not quite so strong. Late game, maybe a bit stronger, because then you'll be able to force them into decisions they don't want to do. Yeah, and then some of these cards would have like limiting restrictions, so like it might be like this. So you get dealt your 3 cards, and it looks like, you know, something like that. Heal 1, or gain 1, lovely. And they'd have a restriction somewhere. So like here, for example, that basically says this can only be played into the circle area of a tableau. So you may end up in a situation where if you drew like 3 circle cards, you have to place them on other people, and then you've got to decide which way they go into the other sort of areas. The only weakness of that mechanic I can see is that either there need to be at least 2 on there to make sure there's always going to be a spot available, because it may be that all, you know, everyone's got circles, you know, just through random luck of the draw, and not everybody can fill all their circle slots. So you know, all the circle slots get filled up, and then suddenly you've got a handful of cards that say I can only be played on circles. What do I do? So I don't know. There'd have to be some sort of if no circle slots are available, you can place it anyway. You know, kind of like the the trump suit. Like if you can only play the trump suit if either it's, you know, the trump suit is what is leading the particular trick, or if you can show categorically that you've got no matching suits to the particular trick. So yeah, I mean that would be, again, sort of flick back to this set of mechanics here. We could use it as again as an area control. That just seems to be the strongest thing I can think of in terms of what this could be used for, other than say like an engine builder. But again, the engine building tends to be good when it's bolted onto something else. I don't know, engine building for the sake of engine building doesn't feel like it's a strong way to represent this. But I quite like this set collection aspect that's back here, in fact. So that'd be quite interesting, I think. I like the idea of this sort of stringing along and then pushing yourself up certain tracks, and then maybe you reset every so often or something. Yeah, so that could be quite cool. So quite basic, quite simple, quite you know, in terms of an idea, it's not going to take more than sort of 2 minutes to explain how it all works and how you're going to, you know, run through the gameplay. Obviously, this is a bit ropey in that, you know, yes, we could use this this area control map idea, schematic-y kind of thing, but, you know, how do you win? Would you go down the traditional route of like areas controlled, that kind of thing? Or, you know, is there something you could do with this where you could build up victory points? Or maybe there's like you know, it could be something as simple as, instead of it being a map, it will be a whole bunch of, you know, miniatures on a board or something like that. So they could be like mountains here, for example, and there's some water here, or there's trees here. And during your turn, you may have like a secret objective or something you're trying to accomplish, and through these actions, you've got to try and get a particular miniature back to a certain slot. So, like, you know, the elf with his little pointy ears. Yep. There you go. Yeah. He may be trying to traverse his way back to here, or your objective may be to traverse this particular character back to there. Now, every player may be able to control this particular elf, so other people could interfere with your plans. So maybe they want to get the elf to the mountain, you know, that kind of thing. So they may ignore. So they may only be trying to get it up to there, for example. But you could use the various actions, so like the movement action, the attack action, to sort of use a character to bop another character and get it off the map. And then someone would have to try and find this action so they can then put it back on the map. And maybe each zone has a certain amount of, like, I don't know, maybe it's easier to get stuff into here. You only need 1 heart on a tile to get stuff back into here. But say you need 2 hearts to get it into the inner bit, you know, because it's harder to traverse there, it's harder to resurrect them there for some reason. You know, there might be like a horrible portal of doom that's sat in the middle there that, you know, is preventing things from resurrecting here. They have to resurrect here, or maybe even, you know, go even further and have a 5x5 grid. Although if I did that, that would be a 6x6. That'd be huge. So yeah, that's another thing we could do. Plus also this kind of, you could have some sort of movement restrictions thing. So like you may have a movement and it may have a tree next to it, for example. So if it's tree movement, he suddenly, oh, I don't know, he can walk up, you know, the branches, or Naruto style, sort of hop across the branches and get to like wherever he's trying to go. So you can change the styles of movements. That might add a bit of extra complexity. Whether it needs that, I don't know. Again, I think this is an interesting one, because usually I tend to sort of design theme first, but a couple of times recently it's been mechanics first. And this feels very much like a mechanics first kind of design. And again, yeah, it came from like the idea of Mahjong, so maybe I need to pick up a Mahjong set and see how that plays, and then sort of go from there. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Hopefully that was interesting for you guys to watch. It was definitely interesting for me, because I was able to sort of work through my design process a little bit there, and I much prefer sort of working on Notepad. Again, we'll have to see which Notepad shows up better on the camera later. I'm hoping it's this one, because it's cheaper and easier to get more pages. However, I'm not sure I'll be able to use these Sharpies on it for very long, because look, it's so right through, and it's sort of showing up under here as well. This is really this sort of drawing pad that you'd only use for things like this. You know, that's ink that won't soak through. But even then it's sort of showing. Anyway, doesn't matter. Thanks very much, guys. Hopefully that was interesting for you, and yeah, hopefully next week I can have something else and we can discuss a different topic. Or again, if you've got any sort of comments or ideas or your own vlogs or anything like that, just link it to me, send me some comments. I'd love to see what you guys are up to as well. Thank you. Bye.